On that day, on that very yet fateful day, Teletubbies was a favorite childhood show of mine from PBS Kids. I had a Tinky Winky plush toy in my bedroom drawer from when I was 3 years old. I loved it ever since I was a kid, but now I just don't see it the same anymore, especially with that one character, Tinky Winky. Tinky Winky. I got home from a long day at school, and the bus had dropped me off. When I was approaching the front door, something hit me in the head hard. The force of whatever that thing was almost gave me a strong headache. Nonetheless, I quickly turned around, but no one was there, only for me to look down at the green grass. A VHS tape sealed in a poorly concealed bag. Generic. I took it with me inside, set all my stuff down, and headed towards the office where a television with a set-up VCR player would be there. There I sat on one of the chairs and began opening the package up, which was frankly easy due to the poor sealing of the plastic covering. Inside was a VHS tape. It was a blank tape, nothing on it except the words Teletubbies, Anger Management. The moment I saw the words Anger Management, I thought of it as one of the characters in the show getting mental and physical help from an experienced therapist. And so I turned on the television and slid in the tape, which started with, if I could recall, 20 seconds of silence. A boring black screen was overlaid, before revealing text. There are 5 stages of grief: denial, betrayal, depression, anger, acceptance. The text faded out, and then played the intro, before showing the usual part where the voice trumpet slowly rises up and questions the absence of the Teletubbies. The scene switches to a field, where Tinky Winky would slowly walk through the field, before sitting down, and beginning to sob quietly to himself. Something about his cries felt off, however. It sounded ghastly and realistically sorrowful. The scene matched with what Tinky Winky was doing, the clouds all somber, and the fields almost grayscale to give it an almost depressing look. The narrator spoke out that Tinky Winky was feeling somber today, as he said that Tinky Winky began to bang his fists against his face as the sobbing got more intense. Something like this made my heart sink. I couldn't help but feel bad for him, considering that I'm very fond of Tinky Winky in the show. No Teletubby in the show had never shown signs of this behavior before, and to me this was something rather new and disturbing at the same time. I also couldn't tell why he was throwing a fit, and was clearly upset. It made a little bit of confusion in the cloud of my mind. Later on, the windmill began to spin, which alerted Tinky Winky, knowing that the TV event was about to start. He quickly shifted from his somber and over-exaggerated self to his Lucky Go style, saying, "Oh" line as if nothing had ever happened. All the Teletubbies got together, and Lala was the chosen one for the TV event. The TV event started out with something that was cynical and dark for BBC Ragdoll's TV standards. There was a young boy who tried to sleep, but hearing the sounds of his parents arguing downstairs made him uncomfortable and anxious. It went on for about 10 seconds before the boy stood and sneaked his way to the stairway, where he saw his parents arguing in the kitchen. What I overheard from the parents was how their marriage was considered a failure, and just straight-up insults to one another, including their own son, the boy, which led him to run towards his parents and yelled at the parents to stop fighting. The boy would then continue to yell as he attempted to attack his parents. The mother began screaming frantically as an ongoing dispute between the parents and son escalated into a violent fight. The child was kicked by the father's foot, leaving him out cold while the parents were off-screen, as the mother can be heard screaming in fear while sounds of clashing can be heard. This really scared me, because this took place at an actual children's show, and the fact that this went way beyond the show's standards. The TV event then ended, leaving the Teletubbies frightened and shocked. The next segment played, showing the Teletubbies eating their tubby custard. All of them enjoyed it except Tinky Winky, who was still feeling somberful. Lala tried and offered him some tubby custard, but he refused. Lala stepped in confusion, concerned about Tinky Winky's feelings, but Tinky Winky retaliated and shoved Lala into the tubby custard machine, thus spilling the tubby custard all over her. All of the Teletubbies were sent into shock and confusion, Tinky Winky threw a fit before running out of the house, and into wary off he went. The remaining Teletubbies got up together and began searching for Tinky Winky, still in the gloomy and quiet environment, darkness surrounding them. One of them had a lantern due to how dark the environment was. Soon enough, the search came into a halt when Dipsy found Tinky Winky, who had his back turned away from them. Dipsy slowly approached Tinky Winky, as it cuts to a POV of him slowly approaching him, before cutting back to Tinky Winky's back, as the hand of Despy slowly reached out his hand, and tapped him in the shoulder. That was when it all started to come very clear. Tinky Winky quickly turned around to Dipsy. He had the most, if not deranged face I've ever seen before my very own eyes. Tinky Winky's face looked very pale as a snowman, in the shape and expression of an inhuman individual with large black hollow eyes with only one pupil on his left eye. His mouth was agape, an unnatural wide smile on his face, exposing pink gums, white teeth, and a dark tongue inside. He visibly looked like he had been possessed, or was in possession of an unnatural cause. The next part scared me to death. Tinky Winky lets out the most demonic scream ever. No, it wasn't from that one episode with the lion and the bear episode. It almost sounded like a reverse scream of a woman, or an unnatural entity, only heavily distorted with a mix of a demonic-like tone added to it. Dipsy yelped in fear, and so did the others, as they ran away from Tinky Winky, who was now unrecognizable due to his appearance. He began chasing after them while unnaturally screaming precisely. He told Lala and Pa that Tinky Winky seemed possessed, and no longer himself. Tinky Winky heard him appeared from behind, letting out the same scream from before. The Tubbies separately as Tinky Winky looks for one of them. Pa ran to a tree and hid behind it, thinking it'll do good from Tinky Winky finding her. But suddenly, the tree was rooted up and thrown away by Tinky Winky, who let out that same demonic scream, ascending from low to an intense level. He grabs Pa from the neck and violently slammed her against the ground repeatedly, before dragging her in a nearby wooded area, and leaving her there, leaving him to die alone a slow painful death. Lala, from a far distance, saw what happened as Tinky Winky walked out of the area before spotting her deadlocked in the eye. Lala shrieked before running away into the woods, trying her best to hide herself from the deranged Tinky Winky. However, Tinky Winky was unnaturally fast and grabbed her by the leg before beginning to swing her around while Lala was flailing around, screaming precisely. Tinky Winky shortly screamed again before proceeding to rip off her face before digging quickly in it like a wild dog. He eventually left her there before moving on to Dipsy, who hid in the house where the tubby custard was. Dipsy made every provocation to avoid being caught by Tinky Winky, speaking of the devil. He ran in the house while letting out the same scream again. Then out of nowhere, Noo came behind Tinky Winky and attempted to attack him, but that failed due to Tinky Winky lifting him up and throwing him down to the ground violently, thus making him not able to work anymore. Dipsy then made an attempt to escape the house, but was violently attacked by Tinky Winky. Luckily the scene wasn't shown and instead showed a wall with a shadow of Tinky Winky killing Dipsy. However, I cannot go into detail on what he did to Dipsy, due to extreme graphic detailing, so I'll skip that part. Tinky Winky then ran towards the custard machine and violently grasped it with his hands, crushing it in total, before suddenly exploding into a raging fire, with Tinky Winky, somehow, leaving the place unharmed by the fires. The scene then shows the sun baby, who looked completely faceless, with the sounds of groaning in the background. Somehow, the sun baby began leaking holes from its face, and blood began pouring out of the face. After that I heard a scream nearby. It sounded unnatural. I might have been imagining things, so I ran back in the house and up to my room. No amount of words could explain how much this had affected me on that day. Still to this day I imagined it all over again, getting that feeling that I'll be living in an endless cycle of paranoia.